Hi, Andy.
Hi, Jean-Paul. Lovely to see you. It's been
And
15
you.
years. We worked out.
It's a long time. It's a long time. Oh, thank you for joining me from Perth, Australia. And firstly, and on behalf of the entire team here at TJ Flutes, based in Lenham, which is a 15th century village just outside of London, may I offer our warm welcome to you for becoming a global TJ flute artist and ambassador for our instruments.
Well, I feel very privileged, and thank you all. Honestly, I'm having so much fun on this beautiful flute. So thank you all. Just terrific work, and hats off to all of you. And hello to everyone at Trevor James and England and Europe. And I know you're everywhere these days.
Yeah, we are. For some reason, people quite like us. So I'm not going to complain, Andy. So for the curious out there, because, and I'll explain a bit later, there will be people curious, I'd like to ask a few questions on why TJ Flutes, if you're okay with this.
Yes, absolutely. I suppose it helps if I tell you a little bit about my background. Yeah. So I was, I'm quite elderly now, Jean-Paul. So I was back before Altus were even a company. So I had a Takumi flute. That was my first kind of decent flute. I learned on an old Boehm flute, which actually had a screw in, like a corkscrew on the side, and you put your hand in the...
I had one of those.
Yeah? Have you seen them?
Yeah, I had one.
From about 1860, I think. Anyway, that was my very first flute. Back in the day, it was quite an expensive operation to get a really, brand new flute. So I ended up with an untuned Lebret flute, an old French flute, which I got from Peter Lloyd. Actually won my first job on that in Hong Kong. I had a Bonville, and I had a Louis Lott tin head joint, and they were great. Trouble is, in Hong Kong, there's no one who can really look after them. And I was sending them back every couple of months to get fixed, and the humidity over there is terrible. So I went on to a gold POW from 1979, beautiful flute. And I was on that for a while. And then I bought another gold flute, and I was with Miyazawa for a little bit. And then I was with Haynes. I had a platinum flute as well. I recently got hold of a very good 1870 Louis Lott. And it's funny, I'm kind of going back to my roots, as it were. So I kind of got back into the Lott, and then I came across this beautiful Trevor James flute. And it just did everything that I was looking for. It projects really well. It's got that really beautiful sound that I feel that I can get lots of different colors out of, and lots of dynamics. And my colleagues in the orchestra were commenting on how well it was coming over, and how clear the sound was. And it was really like a no-brainer. It's just a kind of a, this flute is the combination of all of the flutes that I've just mentioned, and this just seems to work so well, and it's so beautifully made. I mean, the keys are the perfect height. It just feels great. I played it, I play a lot. I play 5-6 hours a day, and it's kind of bulletproof, which I like my flutes to be. And I'm just having so much fun on it.
Well,
so,
Andy,
that's my story.
You're a very well-known principal flute player of the Western Australia Symphony Orchestra, for those that don't know. You've also performed with many of the great orchestras. Indeed, I first met you many, many years ago, when we were both much younger, obviously, when you were principal flute of the Halle Orchestra in Manchester, and then the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra in London before you moved to Australia. And whilst many professional players play on our TJ alto flute, so people will know us for our alto flutes, you are our very first principal orchestral flute player to decide to play on a TJ, which, to be honest, in a world of famous brands, professional brands, making extremely expensive gold and platinum flutes, could be seen as sort of kind of odd.
It's a funny thing. Look, I've owned a lot of the solid gold flutes, the platinum flutes, and honestly, I think Trevor White was telling us when I was at the Royal Northern College of Music at one of his flute festivals. They did a kind of a blind test, hearing test of all of the different flutes, you know, silver-plated flutes, copper flutes, wooden flutes, gold flutes. And within 20 minutes, nobody knew what anyone was playing. They all started sounding very, very similar. And of course, it's down to the player. So my principal maestro, Asher Fish here, he really doesn't notice the difference when I go from and the Trevor James wooden flute that I've just been playing on is amazing. He really doesn't really notice too much because it's always the play. You know, I like to think that you always sound like you, right? I mean, that's kind of what you should. That's what you should sound like. So it's just finding the instrument that you feel comfortable on to be able to get all of the different colors and moods and sounds, and that's really it. It's just what you're comfortable on. So sometimes there's no rhyme or reason, almost, you know. It's just whatever works.
I mean, isn't that wonderful where you've really chosen a flute based around, I mean, you've got a specially made handmade TJ flute, which has been the result of what you've been finding with your testing. And, you know, we're delighted to make that for you.
Yeah.
But in a world where everybody is, not everybody, but a lot of people look at the brand name of the flute and the color of the flute, you've really just gone for an instrument that has really given you what you want. And as you say, when you're playing in the orchestra, or even as a soloist, no one knows what make or brand of the flute it is.
No, that's right. Yeah, it really does come down to the feel of it. And I'm not a snob when it comes to flutes. You know, I've always gone with what I feel comfortable on. Do you know what I mean? Having said that, I mean, I have had more time recently, maybe moving here, where I have been able to try out a few more flutes, and so this has been a really great move for me, and I wouldn't be surprised if there were lots of other people in my position playing full time that will look at these flutes.
Well, already the relationship is bearing fruit, because the information you're sending back, certainly on the new wooden flute that we've developed, has been completely invaluable to us. And, you know, when you come up with a new product, you like to make tweaks. You never sort of say, this is the finished article. And the information that you fed back, we've made the changes, and they're only minor changes. And with that, we have a very successful saxophone range that we work with professional players, and every professional wants something slightly different.
Yes.
And what you were feeding back about the wooden flute, for example, was just the fact that you'd like it to be slightly more open and freer. So we passed that information back to Andrew Oxley, the English head joint maker, who does all the cutting of the heads, and he knew exactly what you meant.
Yeah, right.
And when we got the first head joints back from Andrew, my word, it was woof, it was big. and that's the point with the collaboration. You don't just play on our flute, Andy. You're feeding back information, and we are learning as a brand and as a flute company how to continue to make flutes and to produce flutes and to set up flutes for the flute player and musician. And without this feedback, we'd not grow. So thank you.
Well, thank you, and thank you for listening as well. I mean, it really is. It's a complete treat for me to be able to do that. I mean, the piccolos, your hardwood piccolos, my goodness. I mean, they're just incredible. It's like, you know, it's they're just so good, and it really is like a real pleasure.
Oh, well, seriously, the pleasure is literally all ours. So what can we hope to see from Andy and his TJ in the coming months and years even?
Well, I'm pretty much going to be staying in Australia for sure. I mean, I'm loving it here. I met my lovely wife here nine years ago. We got married 4 years ago. 4th anniversary, December, got to remember. And so we're having a ball here. I mean, of course, we've been completely blessed here in the last couple of years, and my heart goes out to all of you that have had such a difficult time in Europe and the United States, everywhere. Of course, with a smaller population here, and we can contain it here, even compared with over on the East Coast, because we're obviously in Perth, we're on the West Coast. So we have been able to carry on pretty much as normal. So yeah, just feeling very blessed to be here. So yeah, so lots of, I've just done a La Notte flute concerto, and I've got one in March with the Eber, and then lots of chamber music, lots of, yes, it's one of my favorites as well.
And mine, yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, lots of projects with the university and WAPA and all of the students. It's a very musical town for a smaller city, so there's lots of music making going on, and yeah, we're very blessed.
Well, as you say, from London to Perth, it was a long way to go, and
Yeah.
you stayed there, and you're making a really big name for yourself, and it's just lovely to get back in touch with you. And I'm determined to enjoy a cold beer with you in the not too distant future when we're allowed to travel, because obviously all my family are based in Australia now, so it should be slightly more easy for me to come over.
Can't wait, cannot wait to share a beer with you on our beautiful coast. We'll go down the beach and have one. They don't have the warm beer like they do in London. It's all the cold lagers and the IPAs, but they're pretty good.
They are. It's been a long time, Andy. So from all the team here at TJ Flutes, I'd also like to thank Edward and our wonderful distributor, Zenith Music in Perth, Australia, for making this hookup happen. For us, it's all about collaboration. It's collaborating with our global distributors and the players. And there's not one factor that is more important than the other. Everybody's in a team, and it's, Andy, we're honored and delighted to have you as part of our flute family. And really do look forward to working with you in the near future.
Absolutely, and can't wait to speak to you again and see you soon, because I think it will be soon. There'll be a travel bubble between us.
I look forward to that. It's been a long time. So I'd like to close this brief welcome to the TJ Flute family interview with a snippet from a wonderful new flute sonata by Australian composer Lachlan Skipworth. And from the bit I've heard, it is stunning and gorgeous, where you are playing your new TJ flute.